Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bayou Bengals Insider. I'm Jimmy Frederick. Of course, we just have one more week to go, 7 days until we find out who will be in the 2011 recruiting class. I'm joined, as always, by Derek Ponamsky, who is the guru of recruiting, Mr. Expert, and also, of course, the publisher of BayouBengalsInsider.com or BBISports.com. My friend, you know, we have gone through the process. You have been with it every single day for months and sometimes years, and it kind of all culminates in the next week or so.
Yeah, we're you know, with the last little bit of recruiting still left. LSU's got a couple of guys they're still after. The coaching staff is just finalizing the last little bit of details of this class. It looks like it's going to be a really special class.
Well, we have broken down all the positions, and of course we have just two left. We have quarterback, and we'll also be looking at defensive backs tonight. And we'll get another little chat with defensive line coach Brick Haley, and we're always excited about that. And, of course, our special segment with one of the players, one of the recruits, Jarvis Landry. So we've got a lot coming up for you on this edition of Bayou Bengals Insider. Don't go anywhere. It's the last show before signing day. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Bayou Bengals Insider. I'm Jimmy Frederick. Along with me, recruiting guru Derek Ponamsky. And, you know, we've basically broken down all the positions going through the first three shows that we've had in this series, looking at our 2011 recruiting class. The only two positions left, quarterback and defensive back. And we start off today's show with quarterback. And, you know, everybody knows the trials and tribulations that LSU has had at quarterback over the last few years. But Jordan Jefferson really came on strong the latter part of the season especially. Now, the question that I have for you to start off with is, what is Les Miles looking for when he looks at some big-time recruits at QB?
Well, the first thing you notice when you see the guys that LSU is bringing in this class is that the quarterbacks have a similar skill set. You're looking for tall guys who can run play action, and when you look at what Jordan Jefferson has been able to do at the end of the season this year, he had 3 touchdown passes in the Cotton Bowl. He had a touchdown against Alabama and Ole Miss. Starting to utilize the playmakers that they have in front of them. LSU is looking for quarterbacks that can distribute the ball, not exactly have to go out and be the main playmaker on the field. And when you see guys like Mettenberger and Rivers coming in, those guys match up well with what Les Miles is looking to do.
Well, you know, and it's hard to believe that Stephen Rivers, who is the brother of Phillip Rivers, would be the lesser of the two recruits. But we start off with him. He's from Athens, Alabama, 6'7", 195 pounds. My question to you also is, how is his mobility? How does he set his feet?
Well, he's a guy that has surprising mobility. In the game that I was able to go see when his Athens high school team played Russellville in the regular season, when pressure got into his face, he was able to slide in the pocket. He was able to tuck it and run. He's a big guy, like you say, around 6'7", but he's thin. He's a guy that, with a red shirt and some time in Tommy Moffitt's weight room, he's going to really develop into a much more physical guy. He's got potential to be a good SEC quarterback, and the benefit that he's going to have of not having to come in and play right away is certainly something that's going to that down the line could be great for his future.
I don't remember any recruit ever coming on campus that had more hype, more pub than Zach Mettenberger at 6'5", 235. I mean, literally like a rock star walked onto the campus.
You know, a couple of months ago when Mettenberger was first starting to consider LSU, Charles Hannegriff and I on our radio show on the Tiger Zone talked about Mettenberger being the biggest recruit that LSU football has had since Kevin Falk. Now that's certainly something, if you remember those mid-90s, how LSU football was, and when Kevin Falk committed to LSU and it kind of turned the tide, Mettenberger's being mentioned in that same breath. He's a big guy with a strong arm. He is physically ready to go right now. And with Steve Cragthorpe coming in, with some of the things that LSU's been talking about doing, adding play action to their power running game, I think Mettenberger's the guy who matches up perfectly with what Les Miles and Steve Cragthorpe are looking to do.
Well, you know, and I'm glad you mentioned Steve Cragthorpe, the new offensive coordinator. He's also the quarterback's coach, and he's going to be able to develop these pocket passers. And, you know, when I think of a junior college transfer like Mettenberger is, I think of a year, maybe two, but he's got 3 years that he can play at LSU.
Yeah, he's got 3 years to play three, and when you see Jordan Jefferson with 1 year left to play, Jarrett Lee with 1 year left to play, and then you're bringing in Mettenberger, who's going to be a sophomore, along with the freshman in Rivers. If Rivers redshirts and then you have some more time with Mettenberger, the quarterback position at LSU could be in good hands for a couple of years.
What is Mettenberger really going to need to work on? What are his weaknesses, I guess?
Well, the first thing that you look at with Zach as he comes in from the JUCO level is he has not played in the SEC level in live action. He was able to redshirt at Georgia. He was along with Aaron Murray competing for the starting job there in the 2010 season. Some people that you talk to say he was going to be the guy who was going to beat out Murray. His footwork is great. He doesn't have he doesn't have fast foot speed.
Right.
Excellent pocket awareness and a guy who can get rid of the ball when he needs to. I think the biggest thing that we're going to have to see when Zach Mettenberger starts working out with the team is how does he adjust to the speed of the game.
Were you surprised that Stephen Rivers went ahead and signed with Mettenberger having 3 years?
No, I think that for what Rivers is looking for, this is the perfect scenario. Mm-hmm. He comes in with another quarterback in the class, but they're not on level playing field.
Right.
It's Mettenberger's going to be a few years ahead of him. If Rivers redshirts and Mettenberger plays right away, then when Rivers is coming out of his redshirt freshman season, Mettenberger's going to be a junior, so there's going to be good separation between those two guys.
Well, we can't wait to see and make sure these guys sign on the dotted line. We'll find out in a week. We've got more of Bayou Bengals Insider coming up right after this. Don't go anywhere, folks.
Welcome back to Bayou Bengals Insider. This week in our player feature, Jimmy Frederick was able to sit down with Letcher High School All-American wide receiver Jarvis Landry and hear his inspirational story.
Derek, thanks so much, pal. As always in this segment, we are lucky enough to be joined by some of the best recruits that we have coming in for the LSU Fighting Tigers in 2011, and you know, today is no different. We're here with Jarvis Landry. Jarvis, thank you so much for being with us, my friend. And you know, you're a wide receiver coming from Letcher High School and Coach Tim Detillier, but first of all, I got to ask you, when you dream about LSU, what's that dream like running out of the chute for that first time?
It's definitely every kid's dream. You know, coming out wearing a purple and gold as I did in high school.
That's right.
Also, you know, definitely running out the chute and seeing all the fans, you know, definitely the student section, which may be the best part of the stadium, but at the same time, you know, just getting ready to take the field, wearing a purple and gold, same number as everything as I did in high school. I think that was the biggest dream for me.
Jarvis, you know, everybody knows that you're a tremendous football player. You know, we've been watching you for 4 years and even longer than that in Letcher, but a lot of people don't realize the struggle that it's been to get to where you are and to make the commitment to LSU. And, you know, tell us a little bit about you as a person and how you got to where you are today, and that's being a recruit for the LSU Tigers.
Well, coming up, you know, I had a struggle. It was definitely a struggle, and I was raised raised a single parent, as a single, my mom, you know, being in my life, and it was tough not having a dad, and then going into my 8th grade year, a father figure that has been in my life was my uncle, Ernest Clayton, and he stepped in, took me and my mom and my grandmother in also, and you know, one day I'm at school at Dutchtown Middle School, and I get a strange call, you know, saying that my uncle's in the hospital, and by the time we make it to the hospital, he's already gone. So me at that point in time, you know, I'm struck and shell shocked at the same time because not knowing what's my next step, you know, what's going to happen, do I go somewhere else or anything, you know, and I just kind of knew from that point that I had to be a man for my mom and also my family. My brother not being home, being in college, so you know at that time it was just me, and I left from Dutchtown and I came back and attended school at Letcher High School, and I knew that once I started playing football that was going to be my mom's ticket out, and I'm a mom's boy, so definitely I know that you know I had big shoes to fill with him leaving, you know, so I just wanted to find that thing and just rely on that as being my ticket out and for my family and also myself. And I know that he's looking down, you know, proud of me at the same time, just being a LSU recruit and committing to LSU, you know, it was just my dream.
Well, I got to tell you, in talking to you, my friend, he's proud of you for a lot more than just being a recruit at LSU. You worked so hard academically and everything to get to where you are. And, you know, used to be a baseball player, a basketball player. You know, what's going to be that special memory, I guess, you know, being part of the fam, and we've talked with other guys, other recruits about that name that you guys have given yourselves as a recruiting class. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot. You know, it kind of gives me brothers that I never really had. You know, I had a brother in Gerard Landry, but, you know, at the same time, he had a life of his own, you know, trying to do things for himself to help my mother, you know, and the family. So being that I've been around these great group of guys from different parts of Louisiana, it's brought a lot of things, for as much as their struggle to me, you know, as the things that I've been through. So being with them, it kind of was a homecoming for me, you know, that I could be away and still feel like at home being around them. And I just can't wait to play with them. They're a great group of guys.
Well, I know they can't wait to play with you either. But, okay, you expected to have one offensive coordinator. Now you have another. Just don't want to put you on the spot, but your thoughts on your new offensive coordinator?
Coach K, I've had the honor to talk on the phone with him, and he's a really great guy. You know, I've seen him coming in and doing a lot of things with the quarterback. You know, helping them make the passing game more efficient. So definitely that'll be a big thing, and I can't wait. Just can't wait to catch balls from Mettenberger and also Jordan Jefferson.
All right, you've got about 6 months or so before you report for the first time. What are some of the things you do in this offseason to get ready?
Definitely training my body, you know, training mentally and physically, because playing in the SEC is definitely a tough thing to do, and not everybody has the honor to play in the SEC, and that's what makes that conference so great, you know, and just going into that, after the Under Armour game, you know, there's a lot of people taking days off, taking breaks, but me, the next day I'm working out, you know, trying to keep my body fit, trying to get bigger, faster, and stronger, you know, just ready to accept the role that I've had to play as a Tiger.
Jarvis Landry, man, my friend, thank you so much for being with us. We wish you all the best. You're an inspiration to so many people, and we can't wait to follow you throughout this college experience you're going to be having in the very near future.
No, I can't wait either. I'm excited about it.
Jarvis Landry, everybody, an inspiration, a 2011 recruit, and we can't wait to see him in the purple and gold. Of course, he played for Letcher High School in purple and gold, but he'll be for the Tigers in just a little bit. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we will have more of Bayou Bengals Insider right after this. Welcome back to Bayou Bengal Insider. I'm Jimmy Frederick. You know, this has been our look at the 2011 recruiting class leading up to signing day, just a week away. Coach Les Miles has been very, very gracious to allow us to have great access to his coaching staff. Of course, we talked to recruiting coordinator Frank Wilson several times over the course of the last few weeks, and now we talk with Brick Haley, who is the defensive line coach, and we find out a little bit more about what he's looking for in a recruit.
Coach Brick Haley has taken a little bit more time to sit down and talk with us. And Coach, when you go out and you start evaluating, the process of evaluating guys before you get to the offer point, is there any what exactly are you looking for in a defensive lineman, someone who fits the role of coming in and play at LSU?
Well, I think there's a lot of variables in the fact that we go in and look at tackles and ends, and those guys are separately, they're two different people. There's no question. We say defensive lineman, but you know, you're actually looking at tackles and ends. Inside, we want to start out with a guy. We want him to be 6'2", 6'3". That's the norm. That's what we'd really like. But you know, sometimes measurables are not always the answer. Sometimes
there has to be a balance of talent. Right?
No question, no question. If a guy has initial quickness, speed and agility, and he has power and explosion, sometimes it doesn't matter if he's 6 foot tall. If you know that that guy's got the intangibles that you want and that you're looking for, then those things take away from the height, but they add to the player. And that's what's really important in evaluating is evaluating what you need, what fits your system. And if you can do that, then you're well ahead of the game.
When you look at film, and before you get to the point in time when you can have contact with a prospective student athlete, you're watching film, is it more important for you to see guys who make tackles, or is it just the guys who possess decent technique? What are some of the things you're looking at when you evaluate film?
Well, the first thing that I'm going to look for is I'm going to look for a guy that's got a high motor. We want guys that play down after down after down at the speed of the game. We don't want to look at guys that's taking plays off. That's the first thing that I look at. And then we go back to the technique, because for us, that's why they put coach in front of your name. You're going to teach them the techniques. You're going to give them the abilities to get to the football. What we like to talk about here at LSU is that we want to have our tool belt, but we want to have enough tools on that belt that whatever we need, we can go to it and get it. You know, if we need a wrench, we've got it. If we need a screwdriver, we got it. So if a guy comes in and he's not a great pass rusher, okay, then that's one of the tools that we have to put on the belt. We have to come back and teach you and actually groom you into being a great pass rusher. If a guy is a guy that's not very physical and plays hard on the run, then that's my job to get that part done. So we want to have that tool belt, and we want to have the tools around us to get the job done that we need to get done. So, and I guess in retrospect, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to find guys who are athletic first, who play with high motors, that football is important to them.
Is there a balance that you have when you make an offer to a guy, when you look at potential versus production? And there may be, not everybody, but a certain, maybe once or twice you take a shot on a guy who you think that, maybe he hasn't been properly taught up on a high school level, but you see the potential there as opposed to a guy who's very productive on that level.
Well, see, in my mind, I'm going to look at it probably a little bit different. I'm going to look at a guy that's more productive, because in our line of business, production is the bottom line. Basically, potential says you hadn't done it yet. So what we want to do is potentially get him to that point. But here's a guy that's already producing and having success, and the bottom line is this guy is getting the job done. Now, what do we need to do to help him become a better technician? Those are the things that we look at. I think it goes back to what we just talked about being a guy that's not as tall, or the guy that's not as fast. But I think what you do is you go into the situation knowing the weaknesses, and then you know where you have to build from there. But most of the young guys that we come in contact with are really good high school football players. The one thing whenever I talk to clinics or high school coaches, I tell them all the time that in my mind, high school football coaches are the greatest football coaches in the world. Because the thing that they do that we don't do is, once you've coached on all the different levels, you see that you have an opportunity to do different things. For example, when I was in the NFL, we had an opportunity to go out and draft the guys that we wanted. Okay.
Fill your needs based upon, knowing what you were getting up front as opposed
No question. And then you come here and you're in college, and now you get to go and recruit to your needs. But high school coaches never get to do that. They have to take the team that they have and make the best of that football team. So now they've put those guys here, they're putting those guys there. So in my mind, you get to draft and pay these guys. You get to recruit and give these guys scholarships. As a high school coach, you're hoping like heck you get a 6'3", 255-pound defensive end that moves in next week.
Right.
So to me, I give the high school football coaches a ton of credit. And I know a lot of the staffs are understaffed and that they don't get to do the things that they need to do. So you can understand the point that you just asked me about as far as the technique not being here or the next. Well, sometimes they don't have time there, but those are very talented kids, and you know that and you see that by their production.
Well, Coach, thanks a lot for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure.
We'll be back with more Bayou Bengals Insider right after this.
Welcome back to Bayou Bengal Insider. I'm Jimmy Frederick, along with me, Derek Ponamsky. And, it's now time to round things out. And we've talked the quarterback already. We've talked about Mettenberger and Rivers. Now let's talk about the defensive backs. And, Derek, you know as well as I do, LSU has some incredibly talented young defensive backs already on the team. What's Coach Chavis looking for as a D when he's recruiting DBs?
Well, the first thing that you look for in this class right here is exactly what you mentioned. LSU's got a lot of young talent in the secondary. When you look at the guys like Eric Reed, Tyron Matthew, Tharrell Simon, Ronnie Vincent that came in as true freshmen and played, and then you also add in Craig Loston, who was a redshirt freshman, and Morris Claiborne, who was a sophomore. There's just a tremendous amount of young talent in the secondary for LSU. With Brandon Taylor returning from an injury and Carnell Hatcher as a returning player, there's 8 quality guys back there that can all see playing time. So the need to bring in immediate players is not there. But what LSU's been able to do in this class with the defensive backs is find some guys who may take a little bit of time to develop but have phenomenal upside.
All right, basically we're looking at 3 signees in the defensive backfield. We start things off with Ronald Martin. He's from White Castle, 6'1", 185 pounds, a real dual threat. But what impressed me the most about him was his toughness, and I think it's an underappreciated quality that a lot of people don't talk about.
Ronald Martin led his White Castle team to a 1A state championship. And when you look at what they were able to do this year, they became, certainly for a small community like that to win a state championship, it shows that they've got some great character guys on that team. Martin is a good athlete. He played quarterback. He played safety for them. And he's a guy who was a little bit of a late bloomer specifically on the football field, but a guy who with a redshirt year and some time under Ron Cooper can really develop into that over-the-top safety that LSU is looking for.
All right, now at cornerback, Jalen Collins. He's from Olive Branch, Mississippi, also 6'1", 175 pounds, a little bit thinner. Expect he's going to be put a little weight on when he gets down to Coach Moffitt, but tell us about Jalen Collins.
Well, Jalen Collins is a kid who transferred from North DeSoto High School to Olive Branch. Was a little bit off the radar there for a little while, came into LSU's camp, and really showcased his skills. He's a guy that Ron Cooper looks at him and says, maybe he bulks up a little bit and plays safety. Maybe he goes into a big physical corner. He's a guy that in the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game really showcased his talent and has been a guy that has developed a little bit more than what was thought of him going into his junior season, and after his big senior year at Olive Branch, is a guy that is one of the better players in the state of Mississippi, and a guy who, another guy with a redshirt season, could really develop and be an impact player in the SEC.
And we've talked a lot about him. Jalen Collins has the ability to anticipate, and that's something you can't teach always. And when you have that ability to know where the quarterback's going, or you really have a nose for the football, that's something that the coaching staff is excited about.
Well, certainly the intangibles that these guys have is always that's one of the things that LSU is really high on. If you look at what they were able to do with Tyrann Mathieu last year and take his football skills and put it on the field and find the best way to make him productive, Ron Cooper has been very good at making sure he maximizes the talent of his defensive backs.
All right, the third and final recruit that we're going to talk about before we get to our big hour-long recruiting bash special is David Jenkins. Carrollton, Texas, Hebron High School, 6'1", 185 pounds, listed as a cornerback, but he could do a lot of different things.
Yeah, he's probably the best defensive back that LSU's signing in this class. There's not many times when a guy from the state of Texas gets a Texas offer and doesn't stay in state. Steve Ensminger was able to go over to Hebron High School and get David Jenkins. David's a guy who was originally from Louisiana. He lives with his sister and her husband, who's Dallas Cowboys defensive lineman Jason Hatcher, who played at Grambling and then was drafted by the Cowboys. David lives with his sister and his brother-in-law right outside of Dallas, and he's probably one of the better players in the state of Texas. I know when he became a recruitable athlete, he was a guy that got a lot of attention from the Texas media. When he left there to come to LSU, they were not let's put it, they were not very happy about that. Right. They thought that it would be great to see him with a longhorn on the side of his helmet. Steve Ensminger found him, went over there, cultivated the relationship, and stole one from Mac Brown. He's probably the best cover corner in LSU's class this year, and is a guy that, with all the talent that he brings and his ball playing, his ball skills, and his playmaking ability, I think he could be a very good player for LSU.
Well, and you've brought up some great points about Coach Ensminger going over, getting some players from Texas, but more importantly, with just a few seconds left, this coaching staff, led by Les Miles and Frank Wilson, they have done a tremendous job.
There's no question about that. What they've been able to do in the early part of this recruiting cycle is lock up some of the bigger names where they can go out and find and fill in the exact needs that they have right now and find the right people to put into those spots.
All right, here we go. It is the final week before everybody signs on the dotted line. They will be at the Bash. We're looking forward to the Bayou Bash. $45 at the door, right, at the River Center.
Yeah, and it'll be a full day of LSU football recruiting, so if you have nothing better to do, come spend the whole day with us.
That's absolutely right. We will be there, and of course, we'll be breaking it all down for you beginning at 6 p.m. live on Cox 4 Wednesday night on signing day. Have a great night, everybody. For Derek Ponamsky, I'm Jimmy Frederick on Bayou Bengals Insider.